to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. This is Nick Wright. It is Friday. We are all in a great mood. I am, at least.
Absolutely.
Right?
100%.
Everyone's in a great mood.
Well,
I am. I haven't talked to these schmoes all morning, but
hey,
I
it's
feel
a busy
good.
morning when you're putting together a 3-hour sports show. We are...
And there's a lot going on, man. U.S. Open's going on, World Cup's going on.
World Cup.
NBA free agency a couple weeks away.
Things that Kevin Durant said. It could be its own show.
I forgot
There's a
about that.
lot happening. I have a pen.
I'm just glad Nick showed up. I'm just.
Nick had to run home in the middle of the morning,
Man.
in the middle of a meeting. He's
Man,
like, I gotta get home.
I took my car keys to work today.
The
My
car
wife
keys your
would have
wife
left
needed.
me. I
Yeah.
had to go home. Yeah, but we're here. We're good. We're live on FS2 this morning. Got a lot to do.
We should just do a show in the 2 hours getting ready for the 3-hour show.
Exactly
That's sometimes equally as entertaining. All right, that's assuming this is entertaining, and it is. As the LeBron decision unfolds, you know, the one upon which literally everyone has an opinion, we will start to branch out a little and discuss how his move will affect his fellow players. Kyrie Irving, former friend, now possible foe, was asked about the possibility of reuniting with LeBron should he choose Boston as a destination next year. Kyrie said, quote, "In this business, I've kind of experienced it all, and I've seen a lot, so we'll see what management decides." Are we reading between the lines here at all, CC? What do you think? Should LeBron really consider reuniting with Kyrie in Boston? Would that work?
Well, LeBron should consider going to any team that can give him the situation that he wants. He wants to be able to compete for championships, and it's a lifestyle move as far as his family. Now, does Boston fit in that as far as the things that he wants to accomplish in his basketball career and his personal life? And if they fit in, then LeBron should. LeBron didn't opt out
Of
Cleveland. Yeah, for Kyrie. Kyrie opted out without talking to LeBron. You know, did it kind of behind his back, said he wanted out. So in doing that, he said he wanted his own franchise. But when you say that, you say you don't want to play with LeBron James. Because what Kyrie could have done, even if he wasn't having problems with his knee, he could have gone to LeBron. They could have gone to the general manager and been like, "Hey, LeBron, what are you going to do next year?" And LeBron's like, "I don't know what I'm going to do." And he could have been like, "You know something? I'm going to be tied to you. Why don't you?" They could have played the season, and then LeBron could have opted in for one more year. They could have been free agents together. Hey, man, we can go anywhere. Like what we're doing here in Cleveland, we can take this potentially. If Kyrie wanted to go to New York, he could have, "Hey, LeBron, let's just wait another year." So, man, that ship has sailed. Kyrie does not want to play. That's why in his comments, he said he put it on management. Well, let's see what management thinks. Now, if I'm the management and I'm Danny Ainge, I'm looking at LeBron James because if you don't acquire LeBron, you're going to have to beat him at some point. And Danny's trying to put another banner up there in Boston. To me, you look at Kawhi.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like Paul George is a viable option based on some of the players also they have. But you have to explore the LeBron James option, or you are not being responsible to the Boston Celtics, their organization, and their fan base.
I also want to remind the audience about what the LeBron and Kyrie relationship was before Kyrie asked for the trade or demanded the trade, and even after Kyrie demanded the trade. Before Kyrie demanded the trade, LeBron did everything he could do to empower Kyrie Irving. What did we learn this year in Cleveland without Kyrie? Oh, LeBron's the best closer in the NBA. LeBron, the buzzer beater's no problem. Fourth quarter scoring leads the league. Clutch shooting percentage leads the league. Clutch points leads the league. But he realized that's where Kyrie excels.
Yes.
So I will defer to him in those spots because that's where the young man, as he would put it, or the kid, somewhat patronizingly as he would put it, could realize his greatest basketball self. We know that Kyrie Irving can play great in the biggest games of the year because he got to play with LeBron, so he got to play great. He got to play in those games, the biggest games of the year. And the reason I say even after Kyrie asked for the trade, Kyrie demands a trade, that doesn't scorch the earth to LeBron. He goes to management and says, don't trade him. They then make the trade, but because of the Isaiah Thomas physical doesn't go through, LeBron goes to management again and says, we have another chance to keep him. Bring him to training camp. I will get this turned around. So would LeBron be okay with playing with Kyrie Irving? I say absolutely yes. And do I think they would both be professionals in 2018 and do their best to win games? Absolutely yes. The reason I don't think LeBron and Kyrie both being on the Celtics next year is a tenable situation is not for next year, but because if you trade Gordon, you would have to trade Gordon Hayward to open up the cap space for LeBron.
Yes.
You would be trading Gordon Hayward and the long-term deal he's under for LeBron, but you would also by de facto be trading Kyrie Irving the following year with nothing in return. Because if you trade for LeBron and you trade away Gordon Hayward, Kyrie is leaving in a year. Because whatever LeBron felt about the relationship, Kyrie wants to have his own team, and you will never have your own team if LeBron James is on.
So that was my question. If you look at these two when they were playing for Cleveland as A and B or 1 and 1A or whatever it was, however that situation, that relationship, and that dynamic worked out, it was not the way that Kyrie Irving wanted it to. It was fine for LeBron. He was fine. Like, I'll let you look good. I want you to look good. I want you to give you every opportunity. Because at the end of the day, everyone knows it's LeBron's team and Kyrie is on it. Kyrie wants to be the guy. That's the only thing he seemingly wanted to be, which is why he started this whole thing to begin with. So if LeBron could play with Kyrie, could Kyrie play with LeBron?
No, he doesn't want to. He's already made that decision. He had the opportunity. I don't think he wants to play with LeBron. Even if LeBron was a few more years advanced in age, he wouldn't want to play with an aging LeBron because he wants to get the credit. He said he wants his own team. Like, when you say you want your own team, what do you think those things mean?
But would that be enough for Danny Ainge to say, oh, okay, so if you want your own team, you're a big enough superstar, you want your own team, we won't go after LeBron?
Oh, no. Go ahead.
No.
Listen, I think that if the Celtics could execute the trade that Jonathan Jarks and the Ringer laid out, the three-way trade where Kyrie goes to the Knicks, there's draft picks and cap filler that go to Cleveland, and LeBron goes to Boston, Danny Ainge would do that. If LeBron calls up Boston or someone on Boston, because you're not really allowed to call the team yet, and says, I want to go there, I think the move they would make would be trading Kyrie because there's not enough. The salaries have to match. It'd be Kyrie or Hayward. I just explained why I think the Kyrie move is the more sensible move. And we also have to know that Boston, I think, is uncertain, absent of LeBron. Let's say LeBron goes to Los Angeles. I think they're uncertain about their future with Kyrie Irving.
Yes.
They know that not only does
That's going to be a constant, LeBron or no LeBron. So you can try to blame it on LeBron. The Kyrie thing is real.
It's not just the 4 knee surgeries. It's not just that Kyrie put 4 teams on his list to be traded to, San Antonio, Minnesota, Miami, or the Knicks initially, Boston not being on the list. Kyrie knew Boston had the assets. The Cavs had to bring that to him. And this is something that matters more to me than it does to you, C, but they also know that Kyrie was conspicuously absent from Game 7. After being on the bench that whole series, all of a sudden, a home Game 7 to go to the NBA Finals, Kyrie wasn't there. They also know that when he was asked about re-signing, he didn't say, listen, of course I'm going to be here, but it doesn't make sense for me to sign long-term financially. He just said, it doesn't make sense for me to sign long-term financially right now. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. For all those reasons, if LeBron today announced, I'm staying in Cleveland, there would still be questions about Kyrie's long-term viability in Boston.
How much do you give this potential move for LeBron? I mean, do you put it up there? Because I know you think he might, in the East, if he stays in the East, it'll probably be in Philadelphia, which is what you think he might do. Would you put Boston and Philadelphia almost on the same plane in the East?
It doesn't fit the model that LeBron wants. Yeah, you can vie for championships, but he also said it's about lifestyle and his family. Like his kids and his family, they have not some of the things that they've wanted. They lived some of their life in Miami. So I look for them to move to somewhere warm, not just because it's warm, but because what the family wants to do. From a business standpoint, the interests of the oldest boy, they got 2 homes in Los Angeles. So he's saying if it's lifestyle, Dwayne Wade, what did he say? It won't be just a basketball decision. It will be about family and lifestyle. And Boston does not provide that for LeBron James at this point in his career.
But Boston doesn't check any of the boxes, except for they'd be the best basketball team.
Yes.
Like, of all the teams, like, the only box now the question is, does LeBron think I can win anywhere? But if the Kyrie trade happens and you have a starting lineup of LeBron, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Gordon Hayward, Al Horford, to me, that is on par with Golden State.
And what's the one thing
that is right, or at least as close as you can come to Golden State.
The one thing LeBron keeps talking about that's missing from his cachet is the rings.
Well, that's the one thing we keep talking about. I haven't heard LeBron say anything's missing from his cachet. He obviously wants to compete for championships, but I think he's pretty convinced his legacy is intact either way.
Right. I think the one thing, Jenna, that you can kind of grab at there, what does LeBron kind of mention that he doesn't have? That he doesn't have on his resume, he played for a great coach. So he does talk about not necessarily his career not being complete, but he talks about some of the things that some of the other great players had that he didn't have. So I could see why you're talking about, what's he look? Yeah, he would like to play for a great coach. And that's why Popovich in San Antonio was viable, and I believe that Boston is viable.
And we do have some Gregg Popovich news to pass along. We'll do that a little bit later. We're coming up on the other side. What went so wrong for Tiger Woods yesterday?
I picked him.
That's next on First Things First. I think you're still picking him. Dustin Johnson's chip in from the bunker on 8 for birdie. Finished the first round tied for the lead at 1 under at the U.S. Open.
This was a critical shot for him. Both of the guys he was playing with, Tiger and Justin Thomas, were inside of 10 feet for a birdie. Neither one of them made it. Only one makes birdies. He comes out of the bunker. That's the reason why Dustin Johnson is #1. It's not just the long ball.
And sometimes those are two-shot swings, because if it doesn't bounce right in, could roll past, and you have a very difficult putt coming back.
Here's the opposite of that. Graham McDowell's bunker shot hits the flagstick and rolls right back to it. He finished 9 over for a tough round 1.
One of the biggest problems, also, you get a bad break here, it hits the flagstick because he's going to be on the green, the worst he's going to make. But because it came back in the bunker, you know where that ball ended up going? Back in his footprint.
Yeah, right in his
Because of gravity. All right? The gravity is the lowest point in the bunker. I mean, it's got a lot to do with it.
You're right. I just didn't.
The gravity is going to pull the ball back to the lowest point in the bunker.
All right, let's stick with the U.S. Open.
Let you know what went wrong with this one, too.
Tiger Woods was looking for anything that resembled the Tiger of old. Those things are hard to find these days. He struggled right out of the gate. Triple bogey on the first hole. It was the first time he ever triple bogeyed in the U.S. Open. You know, 88% of U.S. Open champs since 1960 have been within 5 shots of the lead after the opening round. Tiger Woods, 9 shots back. Here's what Tiger had to say after the rough start.
I didn't putt well today, and I thought I'd throw it pretty darn good for most of the day. Just never really took advantage of the opportunities, and making a triple and 2 doubles, not very good. It's frustrating because I hit the ball, I'm hitting it well. In the last, I think, 4 tournaments, I have not putted well. And so if I couldn't putt like I did at the beginning of the year, we got something. I just haven't done that.
All right, see, you watched all of this. What went wrong for Tiger yesterday?
Tiger didn't make any excuses, so I'm not going to make any excuses for him. From the beginning, though, his second shot on #1. And the only reason why I know this is because I've been to so many tournaments with Tiger Woods, walking with his parents, walking with the team surrounding Tiger with Nike. And as good as Tiger is, man, he has the same amount of nerves and nervous tension at the beginning of rounds that everyone else has. I told Nick this, and Nick was astonished. Like, I can't believe that. Yep. I said, Nick, watch him on the first hole. Now, we've seen him in this comeback. Early in the rounds, you could see this. He hits the ball over the green. Then he tries to hit a miraculous flop shot. Because it was into the wind, it knocks it back to him. And he makes a critical mental mistake. His putting has not been good. You cannot be in competition for a tournament like the U.S. Open and start with triple bogeys. And then, if he needed a clean scorecard the rest of the way. Then he adds 2 more doubles along the way. So I could see what he's saying. He's very, very frustrated. He is striking the ball well. But in golf, no matter how well you hit the ball, if you don't putt, it's really hard to score. Because the putter is your scoring club in golf. And it hadn't gone well for Tiger, as he said, the last 4 tournaments.
To your point about his nerves on the opening hole, in his career now at the U.S. Open, he's won 3 of these things. In his career at the U.S. Open, he's 15 over on the opening hole of the tournament. That's crazy.
Yes.
So, I mean, going into yesterday, he was 12 over because obviously he had the triple yesterday. And the way he got that triple is what was so disheartening to me. We know that throughout this comeback, at times the driver's been erratic, and at times the putter's been erratic. But where he has been already, once again, one of the best in the world, is with his iron play and his short game around the greens. And what happened on the first hole? The drive's perfect. Driving iron off the tee, right down the middle, it's perfect. And then an easy approach shot, relatively speaking. He goes the one place you can't go. His 2 other competitors with him, Dustin Johnson, Justin Thomas, were short, but they went in the bunker. They saved par. Go ahead.
The one variable that golfers hate It's not how long the golf course is. They don't care about the bunkers. They don't care if you put water on the golf course. Their variable is wind.
Yep.
So it looked like a relatively easy shot, but when you have wind gusts between 15 and 25 miles an hour. Now, the thing that's unique about this golf course, it's very link style. Ain't hardly no trees on the golf course, no buildings, no homes to build to block the wind. So sometimes you catch a wind gust, which he caught on number 1. That's how that ball ends up that far over the green.
So he misses his approach shot, the worst place to miss it, according to the announce crew, which I thought did a great job on FS1 yesterday. And then his chip, he misses it in the worst place you can miss that as well, short to where it's going to roll right back to him. Like I didn't expect Tiger to putt brilliantly, and he didn't. I didn't know that he was actually better off the tee than I thought he'd be. But those types, that mistake there, that cost you a couple shots, if not 3, and then a 4-putt on 13. A 4-putt to get that. Yep. There's a triple, there's a double.
A little short of 40 feet for birdie, ends up with a double bogey without a penalty shot.
I mean, there it is. Like this type of tournament, really any tournament, but particularly one where you don't have a chance for a bunch of birdies or a couple eagles, you have a couple big numbers and your tournament can be over. See, your tweet was perfect, I thought. You said, man, and I know the day before you had gotten in town like at 1 a.m. You were almost no sleep. You stayed up to watch Tiger. Tees off at 147. By 2:02, it felt like his tournament was over. And that's just, he had to basically play even par the rest of the way, but didn't have a realistic shot. It was just disappointing.
Only 11 players putted worse than Tiger Woods yesterday. How hard is it for you to triple bogey the first hole and then try to just do anything to salvage the round or in any capacity the rest of the way?
This is what the advantage Tiger had, because he teed off in the afternoon before 2 o'clock. He was able to see the carnage that this golf course leaves. Now, because the reality of even par is a great score at Shinnecock. And he was able to see this. He saw his buddy, Phil Mickelson, get ravaged by this golf course. Roy McIlroy, we saw him struggle. Jordan Spieth,
yeah.
We saw him struggle. Jason Day, we saw him struggle. So the golfers know that the golf course is very, very difficult. So in that, you have to try to hang in there. You know there's not a lot of birdie opportunities. So that's what Tiger was faced with. He knew that he wasn't necessarily out of the tournament, but it's hard to overcome a triple on number 1.
But here's the thing. I think he did overcome it for the next 10 holes. He had a triple on 1, a bogey on the next hole. He then birdies the par 5 fifth. It's like, okay, I'm back to 3 over. And he went par, 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 par the next 6 holes. He's fine. If we're sitting here today and he's 3 over, 4 back, he's fine. It's then the 4-putt on 13 that really ruined his day. He followed that up with another double bogey. I think the 4-putt beget the next double bogey because
it led to a very bad drive.
Bad drive, and then he went fescue to fescue.
Because he really only had 3 blow-up holes.
He had 3 awful holes, but that can end your tournament.
Yeah.
And
when you're looking at Shinnecock, this is the 3rd time Shinnecock has hosted the U.S. Open. Raymond Floyd won in '86 at 1 under. Corey Pavin, amazing finish on that day. People really think, oh, what was he, 10? No, he was even par. Retice Guffin won. He was 4 under. So if you're around even par at Shinnecock, the times it has been there, you will be in the top 5. So Tiger's got to try to stay around even par. That's why the other 2 doubles really, really hurt.
All right, Tiger tees off at 8 a.m. this morning. Coming up, we're going to talk about what he has to do in round 2 to make the cut. But on the other side, let's talk some football. Ezekiel Elliott knows what he has to do for the Cowboys to win. Hear from him next on First Things First. Back here at First Things First, we're going viral. The Eagles beat the Patriots to take home the Lombardi Trophy, Super Bowl 52. But the real hardware that matters? The rings, Super Bowl rings. Here is Carson Wentz flashing the Eagles' new jewelry that boasts 219 diamonds.
That's
bling,
awesome.
Bling.
Yeah, man.
Bling and then bling.
They get bigger and bigger. Man, you get a team, especially Philadelphia, franchise never won. Well, let's top it. The owner put in an original ring was less gaudy. Then the players got involved, and it was like, hey, Jeffrey, we like, this is what we like. And he was like, okay, no problem.
And it says there on the side, on the opposite side of the players' names, it says their little slogan, we all we got, we all we need, and then family on the bottom. Those are cool rings.
Dusty just pointed out that there are dog masks. Did you see it on the inside?
I did not see that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
They actually had them.
Oh, that's really cool. And there's 127 diamonds on the bezel, which evidently adds up to the player numbers that were involved in the Philly
special. You think they're going to, when Dusty he got on the bandwagon late, you think they'll send him a ring?
I think we should all chip in and buy him the replica version. Jostens, I'm sure, makes it.
A pendant. We'll get him a
let's get him something like that. Absolutely.
Print off a piece of paper. Time for stories brought to you by Ace, the helpful place. First round of the U.S. Open is in the books. Dustin Johnson, Ian Poulter, Scott Piercy, and Russell Henley are your co-leaders entering round 2, all 1 under par. Cece, who impressed you the most yesterday?
Man, Dustin Johnson, world #1, playing next to Tiger Woods. I thought the USGA did a tremendous job. Dustin Johnson, Justin Thomas, #2 in the world. People don't talk about him a lot as far as the young guns, being right next to Tiger Woods. They said, man, they haven't played against Tiger Woods. Let Tiger feel some of the current-day power of Dustin Johnson. He was very impressive.
And we know definitively that Dustin Johnson was dealing with the exact same conditions Tiger and Justin Thomas were dealing with, right? Like, it's because when wind plays this big of a factor, the difference between teeing off at 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. can be a big difference. He's dealing with the same thing Tiger was dealing with, and he leads the field. He was great. And he's an easy guy to root for. I like DJ. I'd like to see him win.
And early, scrambled on #1, save par, scrambled on #2. He was already 4 shots better than Tiger after #2.
To the NFL now, Sam Darnold was the 3rd overall pick in April's draft, and now he's 3rd on the Jets' depth chart. The rookie quarterback, who spent some time with us in our studio here, sits behind Josh McCown and Teddy Bridgewater. But according to reports, Darnold has a, quote, real chance to open the season as the starter. Chris, should the Jets go with Darnold right away?
No, I mean, he's 3rd on the depth chart. Josh McCown has a huge advantage, not only as far as experience, but just knowledge of the personnel and what type of offense. We know that Teddy, he's kind of the wild card in this. They got him from Minnesota for nothing. He's got very minimum guarantees on his contract, so no rush. Don't get Sam Darnold in there and get him hurt, kill his confidence. I think they're handling this the right way, Nick.
I would say, though, while I agree with you, they're handling it the right way in reference to Darnold, I think the ideal situation for the Jets is that Teddy is the Week 1 starter. Because if Teddy plays well, when you are ready to move on to Sam Darnold, he might have some real trade value. At before the NFL trade deadline, if someone gets hurt, there's no trade value for Josh McCown. Teddy, if he shows he's back to being a starting capable quarterback, you could get real draft pick compensation for him.
All right, some unfortunate news for Martavis Bryant. According to a report, the Raiders are weary that a suspension for Bryant may be imminent. Bryant was suspended for the entire 2016 season due to repeated violations of the substance abuse policy. Cece, what do you make of this latest development with Martavis Bryant?
Not surprised. I try to tell Nick all the time that once a guy gets into the program, man, the probability of him coming up with a positive test, he's been suspended for a year. That means he's getting tested 12 times a month. That's 3 times a week. So if he's involved in anything that would jeopardize that, the guys end up getting suspended again. So I'm not surprised. There's only a few guys that have ever been suspended for a year and have come back to have a successful career. I'm sad for him, really disappointed because the Raiders spent a 3rd-round draft pick on him from Pittsburgh.
And this was also why, when he was making all that noise about wanting either a new contract or wanting to be featured in the offense more, or that the Steelers should move on from him, we said, man, you were 1 failed test away. Go ahead.
And the reason why I don't have a lot of empathy for him is that I worked with this kid before the draft. He came up positive at the combine. Oh, he told us, nothing was wrong with the sample. And, of course, in the rest of his career, he struggled with the same thing. He has the information. Right now, he just doesn't have the power to be able to say no.
All right, to the NBA now. We got a Nick Wright special here. According to Vegas odds makers, last year's Warriors team would be favored against Michael Jordan's 1996 Bulls team that won 72 games. If they played today, it wouldn't even be close. Michael Jordan is 55. Nick, you buying that these Warriors are better than Jordan's Bulls were?
Better is a tough word. Cece's throwing pins around. He's so mad. He's like, I toured with these Bulls.
Yeah, stop.
All right, listen. I actually do think because of the style of play and the three-point line, I would, if we had time machines, I would favor this Warriors team against the 96 Bulls. The teams that I think would be the best matchup against this Warriors team historically, the 0-1 Lakers, peak of their power, Shaq, the Warriors have no answer for him, and Kobe coming into his own, and the Showtime Lakers. No answer for Kareem, and Magic could really put in work on Steph.
So you're saying that they had an answer for Michael Jordan?
No, I'm not saying they had an answer for Michael Jordan.
Because you said the Lakers didn't have an answer for Shaq.
I think the size thing. Here's the thing. The Warriors just played back-to-back NBA Finals against a player who's playing as well as Michael Jordan ever played, and they won those easily. So go ahead.
The supporting cast.
I understand the supporting cast, but you asked
So what
about
would
an answer
LeBron
for
do if he
Michael
had
Jordan.
Pippen?
Correct.
And Rodman.
I get it. I'm simply saying that Bulls team didn't have enough size or shooting. I agree.
I think we're
agree
trapped right in the moment. Oh, this team right now. Oh, what about the lack of a bench?
Listen, I'm responding to what Vegas said. It's not me being trapped in the moment. Vegas said they'd be favored. I'm saying teams I think they wouldn't be favored against. The 0-1 Lakers, the Showtime Lakers. What? What, see? What?
I'm going to get me a burner again.
All right.
Speaking of which.
Finally, the latest head-scratching comments from Kevin Durant, the now two-time Finals MVP, says, quote, I mean, I'm crazy about winning. Don't get me wrong, I'm just not obsessed with winning championships. It's not the only reason I play. I play for my individual growth. Cris Carter, what'd you make of these comments?
Well, I'm not surprised. This is what we do to athletes now. We ask them so many different questions, and we try to put a different spin on it. So now the spin is, would you like to win? Oh, yeah, I'd like to win. You'd like to win a championship? Well, yeah, so I've won a couple. Are you obsessed with winning? No, I'm not obsessed with winning. Now, they expect every great athlete to say, oh, no, I'm obsessed with winning. I'm totally consumed by it. And most of them, they wouldn't be. LeBron is not obsessed with winning. He's not. He wouldn't be because he'd be dying the last couple of years if he was. So I just think that we set athletes up sometime to get a comment like this. I like Kevin Durant because it's measured and it's appropriate. No, he's not obsessed with winning. I hate when, now Daryl Morey, when he said that, I really thought like that organization where they are, like when he said they're obsessed with Golden State, I could understand that. But players and trying to think every player is going to be like that, no. So I got respect for Kevin Durant and his answer there.
Let me add another quote to this, though, that Kevin Durant, Steve Nash said to him right after he picked the Warriors. Quote, it's not about championships. This is about challenging myself and learning new things. And that's the part to me that when he says, I'm not obsessed with the winning, I'm obsessed with challenging myself or evolving my game, that rings a little hollow. Only in that the only, to me, logical reason to pick Golden State was championships. Your job didn't get harder. Your job got easier.
But he could be challenged basketball-wise by the basketball players to play there with them in that. I could see why he would be challenged to go there.
What do you mean?
From a basketball standpoint, to play with better players. You can learn more about basketball. The basketball in the NBA is a basketball laboratory. Would you prefer to be learning with Steph and Clay and Draymond going through the NBA, or not learn anything with Russell?
So, no, I understand the ability to learn more about what other great players do. I agree with that point. The challenge part, that's where we may disagree. That I don't think Golden State presented more of a challenge for him. It maybe presented more of an opportunity to evolve, more of an opportunity to grow his game, as he puts it. But it was the reason this quote stood out to me is, if you weren't, I thought when KD picked Golden State, I thought he was simply trying to remove the arrow critics had that you haven't won a title. So I will go the quickest possible path to a title because every other part of my resume is unimpeachable. I've won an MVP.
But there's no way we can prove that. Like, there's no way we can prove Kevin Durant just wanted life to be easier. Kevin Durant made the best basketball decision for him, personally, to be able to grow his game. And there's nothing wrong with that decision.
No, I agree there's nothing wrong with it. But would you, the point that I'm trying to make, that I think for basketball fans, I think people assumed that the reason he wanted to go there was because all he cared about was winning.
Yeah, you can't assume that. Like, you can't assume that. He likes the environment in Golden State. You know what? He likes the players in Golden State. And just because they're great players and they have a great collection of players. Like, we have to consider who you want to play with. And he wanted to play with those guys. Like, what's wrong with that?
No. You're saying what's wrong with that. This is not, to me, at all I've made it clear the reasons that I personally...
I think Kevin gets a lot of criticism because people think he copped out and made the easy decision.
Correct.
But he made the best decision for his life. It's no one else's life. Like, Kevin Durant has to fulfill what he thinks is best for him. Like, and so now every time he answers a question, like, he's not going to be right because of his decision. He's not wrong because his answer here is he's wrong now because he can't be right because he decided to go to Golden State. And I'm just not going to judge him on that.
And I just want the audience to understand, I've made the reasons as a basketball fan I didn't like the decision, but I've also said, of course, he had every right to do it. The part that I found interesting was, I think most people, and you're saying they're wrong to assume, I think most people look at the decision and say, the reason you make that decision is because you are obsessed with winning, because you want to make sure you have the best.
It's you. But now we've seen Kevin Durant is a different person. When are we going to take who Kevin Durant is as a person and try to analyze his decision compared to if I was a free agent? Well, you're not. People need to stop doing that. You're not in the position of Kevin Durant. You're not Kevin Durant. You don't know what Kevin Durant is thinking about of how he can grow his basketball game and how he wants to do it. So we need to stop assuming that we know.
All right, let's talk some football, because it's easier. A day after the Cowboys locked up Zach Martin with the most lucrative contract ever for a guard, all eyes turn to one of the guys who will benefit from that. Ezekiel Elliott says that he's ready for a heavy workload in 2018. Remember last season, Zeke ran for 983 yards after missing 6 games due to suspension. His rookie year, he led the NFL in rushing yards and carries. Here's Zeke after camp yesterday.
A lot is asked from the running back for the Dallas Cowboys. You know, a lot has been asked from me in the past 2 seasons, and I think, you know, I've had some great strides this offseason, getting ready to carry that workload this season. But, I mean, those receivers are also looking very good. I think they're a little bit underrated, a lot of it underrated, but, you know, they definitely had a good offseason, and, you know, we'll be fine this season.
Zeke's game, not sponsored by Gillette. What do the Cowboys need from Zeke this season to be a success?
Well, they got to keep him healthy. I think staying healthy, that's one of the things that will lead to a great season. But where I look them to add volume to his game is I look for him to get the ball out of the backfield as a wide receiver. I look for him to get a lot of yards after the catch. They already had a tremendous screen game. Well, what does it take to have a tremendous screen game? They have very, very athletic offensive linemen. All their offensive linemen can typically get out on the perimeter and be an asset as a lead blocker. So that's something that they've done in his first 2 years. But I look for them to potentially expand it, move him out of the backfield, move him into the slot, have him get the ball quick in space because he's hard to be able to bring down. So I don't look for Zeke from a carry standpoint to be able to increase his workload over what he did, how many touches he gets per game per carry. I look for them to try to get him the ball in space and utilize him in the passing game. That's where I look for Zeke to be able to bump up his game because, as you mentioned, he was all-pro his rookie season. If he was to play that way, you couldn't be disappointed with Ezekiel Elliott.
And for the Cowboys, it's, you know, to whom much is given or whom much can do, much is expected. Like, that is what they have to have from him. He has to be not only in the discussion as one of the best running backs in the league. I think for the Cowboys, given how they've allocated resources, given that Witten and Dez are gone, given that we don't think it's probably realistic to expect Dak to be quite as good as he was his rookie season, even if he's better than he was last year, you need Zeke to be the rare running back like Todd Gurley was last year, where people are saying, could this guy be the MVP of the league? Like, this is a passing-dominated league. We would all agree, right? There is no team in the league that has less money allocated to pass catchers and pass defenders than Dallas. Wide receivers, tight ends, defensive backs, the league average is $62 million. The Cowboys are spending $38 million on those 3 position groups. Why? Because Zeke, for running backs, actually making a lot of money, but most notably, their offensive line's making a ton of money. They got a D lineman on the franchise tag. DeMarcus Lawrence making a lot of money. So where you're spending your money, you have to get your production. And your point about Zeke being able to increase the production by catching more balls, I find interesting, because I think that is where there will be an opening, because we know every team's going to go into games against Dallas saying, we got to stop the run. We got to have 7, if not 8 guys in the box. We have to stop the run, and Zeke's going to have to overcome that.
Is there too much concern for this Cowboys offense that you're putting sort of all your eggs in one basket, that you're asking him to run the ball and catch the ball and maybe veer outside of his comfort zone a little bit because to compensate for some of the receivers you lost last year?
No, it's not that, because all the top running backs, if you look what L. Bell does in Pittsburgh, if you look at Nick mentioned, Todd Gurley, what he does at the top running backs, this is what they do. They have to be dual threats. The best running backs they're 3-down running backs. That means you don't have to take them out in obvious passing situations. So, no, we're not asking too much. If you are a featured running back, if you're one of the handful of guys, no, that's what you're supposed to do. But what Nick didn't mention was Todd Gurley, man, he had Sammy Watkins.
Sure.
All right? He had a couple. Cup, the
Cooper
rookie,
Kupp
he had
well,
he had a tremendous year as a slot receiver. My man that came over from Buffalo,
Robert Woods.
Man, he had a tremendous season. So you need other things around you. If you're going to be Todd Gurley, you need that passing game to be able to step up.
But the other thing I keep thinking about when we talk about the Cowboys and Zach Martin's big deal and the fact that they lost Dez Bryant, all the storylines this offseason is something. Chris, when you and I first started doing TV together, before the show even existed, and the Cowboys were the topic of the league, they were 10-3 or 10-2, and then you ended up 13-3, number 1 seed, and then they lose that playoff game.
They missed their window.
You were adamant that they might have, that their best chance to win a championship or get to a championship with this core might have been that year. Like, how much better will Zeke ever be than he was that year? How much better will Dak ever be than he was that year? How much better will the offensive line ever be than it was that year? You were adamant about that. The rest of the football world, myself included, was like, man, no team is better primed for the long term than the team that just had 2 rookie phenoms. And I wonder if you still feel similarly, that they will look back on, man, we had home field. We had everything break right. We were incredibly healthy that year. And we were one and done
in the next 3 years, they will not have a better team on paper. All right? So, and they also had home field advantage. You're in Jerry World. You're playing at home. People talk, well, the inexperience of you better try to win when you can. Now they still have Dak on his rookie contract. They spent all that money. I think that will be true. The next year I predicted there would be a correction. They would have a hard time winning 10 games, which turned out to be true. And then now we're in year number 3. So there is no future, Nick, in the NFL.
It's right
the
now.
future's right now.
Yeah.
So
you were
stop
adamant about that.
Oh, man,
year.
this trade, the projection, the salary cap. Man, you better try to win now. There ain't no future.
Slow your roll. Coming up.
Did somebody tell you that?
No, that was just me. Did it make sense?
Well, that's your fault.
Okay.
I was going to blame it on someone else.
Oh, it was Brum. He's not here today. Coming up, big fight at Giants camp. Will it galvanize or gut the team? That's next on First Things First. We have Chris Candy in the house. Happy Friday, Chris.
In the building.
Welcome to the show.
Hey, Jenna, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm outstanding, ready to talk some football.
Let's talk some
Let's get to it.
football right now.
8.
Stop.
Here we go.
And we're in.
She made it 14. Canty has an effect on Jenna. Jenna just falls apart.
Right?
The Giants, so big. The Giants wrapped up minicamp yesterday. Nothing mini about minicamp. Nothing's working. The Giants had just 3 wins last season, their fewest win total since 1983. It was a good year, see, it was a good year. So let's get back to minicamp. A fight broke out involving Damon Snacks Harrison.
Friend of the show.
Yeah, and
Snacks.
rookie offensive guard Will Hernandez. Snacks reportedly swung his helmet at the rookie. Also, their prize signing of the offseason, Nate Solder from New England. He hurt his leg during the incident, but is expected to be okay. CC, I'll start with you. How big of a deal are fights like this in minicamp?
Well, in every football team pretty much that I've been on since high school, I would say in the training camp phase or trying to put the team together, that there was some type of fight or altercation. A lot of people would say it's kind of a necessary thing in trying to put a football team together. But as a veteran player and in pro football, we have to realize that in this new age of football, with the collective bargaining agreement, with the lack of physical contact that you can have, it's hard to figure out and to make a football team. You can't have the two-a-day practices. You can't have the type of contact, the tackling and everything with concussions and everything that we used to have. So now you have to teach football in shorts. And a lot of young players, Will Hernandez, first mini camp with the Giants, I'm sure he does not know how to practice in shorts.
You mean like take it back a notch?
Well, no,
down.
you have to go 100%, but you have to know how to practice safe and still go 100%. You have to be able to take care of the veteran players, because the veteran players, this is what they've have gotten accustomed to doing because they've been in the league long enough. Younger players, no, it's not about taking it back. It's not, you're not going to be reckless. You can be intense and not be reckless. And I know Chris Canty's going to tell you this. If I go to mini camp every year as a veteran player, I know I'm going to have to whoop one of these guys.
Yep.
One of these young guys is going to try, they're going to try to make their career off of me in shorts. And I'm not going to let that happen. So typically, one of the loudmouth DBs, he feels like he's going to make minicamp off of Chris Carter. And I already know coming into minicamp, I'm going to abuse one of these kids. I'm going to treat him so bad.
You're
I'm
already
going to throw
mad.
him to the
you
ground.
haven't played in a while.
It's the attitude.
I'm laughing because I feel the same way.
I know what I'm going to have to do. Denny Green is looking at me. Brian Billick are looking at me. And is Chris in shape? Let's see if he's been working. But these young guys, they think that I've gotten older. And I'm going to make an example out of one of them. And I'm sure my man Snacks decided, I haven't had a snack in a while. This guy, Will Hernandez, he's supposed to be the toughest guy in the draft. That's when he came to Texas.
Second-round pick out of UTEP.
Yeah, they said he might be the toughest guy. So, okay, let's see if you can win one against Snacks, and I'm sure Snacks let him know that, listen, it's not going to happen that way.
Yeah, it's easy to be tough against teenagers in college, but when we start talking about playing in the NFL, we grown men. And there's a certain way that we do this. And, CC, you hit the nail on the head. Young players have to learn how to practice, because ultimately the most important thing is making sure you get the best 53 on the team healthy into week 1 of the regular season, because that's when it really matters. And as far as what you're going to get from mini camps and OTAs, we're talking about practices in shorts and helmets. So the physicality aspect of it is not going to be there for offensive and defensive line play. But on that
That's some of the worst time for offense and defensive line, because guys can't protect themselves.
And it's why rookie offensive linemen are struggling more now than ever before, because they're blocking differently in college, and then in their transition to the NFL, they don't have as much time to actually practice.
It's hard to teach them, Chris, right?
It's hard to teach them, and here's the one thing. You know that the Giants' offensive line was the focal point of a lot of criticism last year, and so the coaches during OTAs, during minicamp, there's an emphasis on those guys being able to set the tone, set the tempo of the practice.
We're going to be more physical as a team,
and
right?
That's who does it. When you start talking about these kind of practices without pads, it's the offensive line that sets the tone for that, and everybody kind of reacts off of that. But in that particular play, when Snacks Harrison and Will Hernandez got into it, there were a lot of players on the ground. It was a run to the left side of the offensive line. There's a lot of guys on the ground. The one thing that you will hear every coach say at the beginning of training camp, stay off of the ground, because that's when guys get hurt, and that's why there's concern right now around Nate Solder's right leg.
Somebody rolled into him.
Somebody rolled into his leg. And so I understand there's a little bit of an issue with Snacks Harrison escalating the incident by taking the helmet and swinging it at Will Hernandez, who didn't have a helmet on.
That's dangerous.
That's dangerous. I mean, and that takes it to another level. But I also understand a veteran player wanting to fight for what he envisions this practice and the tempo of the practice should be.
All right, I feel like the best training camp or mini camp or off-season fights usually involve offensive and defensive linemen. You, of course, no disrespect to wide receivers and defensive backs. You play D-line, either with or without names, preferably with names. Can we have a story that involved Chris Canty?
Yeah, so I'm going to take you back to my rookie year in Dallas, and we had our first mini camp. Bill Parcells was the head coach. Casey Rogers, now defensive coordinator for the New York Jets, was our defensive line coach. And I had one of my teammates, nose tackle Jay Ratliff, and he was in the meeting with the defensive line, and he was talking to Casey saying, listen, we got these offensive linemen, they're jawing at us, they're veteran players, and you want to respect them. And Casey looked at all of us, because it was Marcus Spears, Jay Ratliff, and I, all rookies that same year. He said, you're a man before anything else. The very next practice that afternoon, Jay Ratliff gets into a fight with the backup offensive lineman, and let's just say that offensive lineman from that point on, he wasn't playing football anymore for a living. He was selling suits. Just going to leave it at that. But that's what it is. You're always going to have those types of altercations. But I think the most important thing in all of it is keep in mind that you're teammates and you're all working together collectively to accomplish a common goal.
What are you guys fighting about? Besides you wanting to show the young guys that you still have it and that no one needs to, you know, command any real estate that's not yours, what are you fighting about?
Oh, you're just fighting about respect. That's all right. I just want some respect. And no one's going to take my position. I realize I'm one of the best players in the world. You just got here. There is a pecking order, and I just happen to be at the top. I used to tell the kids, it ain't my fault. It's Denny Green and them. They made me this way, all right? So it's not as if you're fighting. It's as if you're competitive, and it gets a little heated, so it gets a little edgy. It's not as if you take the field saying I'm going to fight a guy.
Sure.
But I'm not going to run, all right? And I'm not going to be disrespected. That's what it typically boils down to, respect.
Yeah, the nature of football is to impose your will on another man. So when you start having that type of competition,
it's like our show.
Those types of things are going to happen. And the coach, it's his responsibility to try to make sure that he gives everybody in the locker room perspective on everything that's happening.
The legendary Russ Grimm, one of the Hogs for the Washington Redskins, in his Hall of Fame speech, he said, football taught me something that nothing else can teach me. There's no better feeling than moving a grown man against his will. And that's why a lot of people in the trenches, that's why they play football. I'm sure Will Hernandez, he didn't want to be moved against his will.
He shall not be moved.
Yeah.
What?
Wow.
Coming up,
Wow.
Cris, we'll see you a little bit later. I never played football. It was the only time I could move a grown man against his will. How will the latest news out of San Antonio impact LeBron's future? Say it, CC.
For all of our fans out there, y'all didn't think Jenna played football. Y'all didn't think she had a Hall of Fame career. Really shocked.
Back here on First Things First, Steven Jackson is here again. Hey, Steven, good morning.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
How are you? Good seeing you.
You know, we spent the bulk of last segment talking about fighting among grown men, professional athletes, moving a grown man against his will.
I done took a couple of L's. I done won more than I lost, though.
So you're already jabbing,
I wake up ready
sparring.
to squab. I wake up ready to squab. That's just in me.
Forget
It's
it.
in me, not on me.
Okay, so I'm sure that as a tough guy in the NBA, I'm sure you've got stories.
I don't know. Let me change that. Let me say.
No.
I'm not a tough guy.
No, you're a
I'm
sweet,
just a
gentle
man that stands on what he's believing, and I don't take no disrespect. I'm not a tough guy. I hate that. I don't
And
like
you
that.
are, I would also add,
tough guy, Jenna.
known for your loyalty.
Yes, I'm very
And
loyal.
that has pulled you into some situations that you otherwise, where you weren't necessarily the aggressor, nor were you the victim,
Right.
but of someone that you cared about was. But what about practice fights? Whether you involved in them or not, like in practice, something that comes to mind in the NBA. Because Cris says NBA got no fighters, got nobody wants to do nothing.
No, they got a couple guys that tough. Right? They got a couple real tough ones
not a
out of the
tough guy.
500.
Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah. Get run over by a car and all your teeth knocked
He
out.
told me to say that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, right.
All right, so give us a story real quick.
Them was the real tough guys, the
Yeah.
ones who say they're not.
All right. Okay. Yeah. You're right about that. I stood right up after that too. Yeah. No teeth in my mouth, but no, sir. Darryl Armstrong, vet, coach of the Dallas Mavericks now. Danny Granger was a rookie at the time, and he told Danny Granger, "Hey, you can't show up to practice late. You can't get on the bike. You got to go out there and work out with the rest of the young guys and get ready for practice." He told him,
I got you. Danny
Yeah.
Granger told him to perform a sexual act.
Yeah, to him, and he's like, "You
Daryl's
said-
a little guy now.
Right. Black college." He said, that, 'cause he always says that.
Yes.
He always say that. He always,
love
2010,
it.
Black college, that's what he always say. And he said, "You said what?" And he repeated it. Before he got the last word out of his mouth, Darryl Armstrong hit him with about a 3-4 piece. Bing, 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 bing. Before we can even see him get off the bike. And he was the old guy at the time. But that's probably the only fight I've seen in practice, but it was worth it because it put Danny Granger in the spot.
Was he hurt?
His feelings were hurt. His feelings were hurt, and you don't disrespect a veteran like that.
And
especially
Granger's
a guy
got
like that.
7 inches on Darryl Armstrong.
Yeah, but, size don't matter.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, Steven. That's love story time with you. Love story time. Talk some basketball now. Yesterday, reports came out that your former coach, Gregg Popovich, doesn't expect to coach beyond 2020. Pop has coached over 2,000 games, won 5 titles, so maybe a break is not the worst idea.
Right.
What do you think, Stephen? What makes Popovich such a great coach? Like, why are we talking about this as big news that he might step away from the game?
Well, me personally, I always thought he was going to step away when the Big Three was done. You know, I think he was going to spend his whole time with those guys, and when those guys started to step down, he was going to pass the reins to somebody else, just like he passed the reins to Kawhi when Tim left. You know, Pop is just a great guy. I think one thing I loved about Pop more than anything, besides him being a great basketball coach, was he cared about me as a person more than a basketball player. You know, when I first got to San Antonio, I had no clue about being a professional. I thought basketball was just a game. Well, he taught me that, you know, you play defense, you'll play on my team. You come to this game and work and treat it like a job and follow the footsteps of these other guys, Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Steve Kerr, all these other guys I had, then you'll be fine. And even times when I had off-the-court issues, when my fiance, my wife at the time, had a miscarriage. You know, I was going to the game in Chicago, and I was on the bus ready to go to the game. I remember him and Tim come and pull me off the bus, and both of them had tears in their eyes because I was showing strength about what I was dealing with, and I was willing to play. And it was like, basketball's not that serious, you know. We care more about you as a person than basketball. And they had me stay at the hotel, but I wasn't physically there, but I didn't show it. And for them to take the time out to care about me, to even think about to see how I really felt, and to send me back to the hotel, that showed me they cared more about me than basketball.
And when you say you thought he would step away when the Big Three were done, or I think he probably thought that. He committed to coach USA basketball in 2020.
Right.
And it wouldn't have made sense for him to retire from NBA coaching and then still have this. He's not the type of guy that's going to eschew that obligation. Right. You know what I mean? Like that he's going to say, okay, I'm not now going to do USA basketball. So I think that's where the 2020 timeline came, is he feels like he's tied to coaching through that time. And what you're talking about, it seems like, listen, Pop's a brilliant tactician. He's reinvented his offense, his defense multiple times. He's great at all those things. But whenever we hear stories about him, they are so rarely about basketball. They are so rarely about what he does out of timeouts. It's about the joy he has for the game, but also the way he cares about his players as human beings and the Spurs family. Like that even once you're done playing there, you're still a member of the Spurs family, which I think that starts from him as the head of the family.
Yeah, as a great coach, you have to be a great teacher. And that's what Pop has done. He's been able to teach basketball and be able to teach the game of life through basketball. Great coaches, they get the most out of the talent. Right. He has had good talent, but he's developed that into great talent. If you look at the Tony Parkers, if you look at the Ginobilis, would their careers be totally different? Leonard. Would they be totally different if they had played somewhere else?
Right.
His understanding of European basketball and other players from different countries. He's the best at coaching basketball internationally, all right? He has more foreign players on his roster. But the real trait to a great coach is, can you make me do something as a great athlete that I won't do myself? And that's what Pop has in common with Phil Jackson, with Pat Riley. And that's what makes him one of the great coaches that we've ever seen. That's why sometimes, even now, we went on this little run with Brad Stevens. I get a little upset when we put Brad Stevens on the same corner as Popovich when he's done so many different things as far as basketball, his interaction with different players, his international appeal, how he's changed his offense and defense a couple of times. That is the track record of a great coach and championships. And we're talking about Brad Stevens as a great coach. And there's so many things that he has not accomplished.
Yeah, and one thing about Pop, too, a lot of people don't talk about, I think he's the king from the 20th pick on the rest of the draft. He's the best at finding stars in that area. You know, I don't think any other organization has gotten more stars in the second round and like Pop has.
So let's talk about what this means. So if he is to step away in 2020, do you think this affects the Spurs going after a guy like LeBron James? Does this affect the Spurs trying to hold on to Kawhi Leonard? How much does that tie into the longevity of Popovich's career?
I think if anybody wants to play in San Antonio, if anybody wants to be in San Antonio, they want Pop there. It ain't no question about that. Yeah, they're playing for him. I mean, everybody in the NBA would love to. You hear about guys that never played for Pop speak highly of Pop. KG, certain guys that never played for him. So if they want that team to be what it's supposed to be and get back to the winning field, Pop has to be there.
Yeah, and also you have to, Pop's a man of his word. LaMarcus Aldridge, when he left Portland, he signed a 5-year deal with the San Antonio Spurs. In that meeting, he promised Marcus he would be there his whole career. So he's been there a couple years, right? He's got a couple years left. So that right there is the window, and also his personal life. Lost his wife, his partner of a lifetime. That right there has to have an impact. USA Basketball, the death of his wife, the promise that he made to the last free agent who they had signed. If you think him with this type of announcement or this information getting out is not going to affect LeBron James, then you don't know LeBron James, and LeBron would have to change his criteria to go there for 2 years and then be able to go somewhere else, and we don't think he's going to do that.
Well, that's the thing is, there's two ways to look at this. One is, knowing Pop stepping aside, you can just X the Spurs off the list if LeBron only wants to sign a 4 or a sign-and-trade 5-year deal. The other way to look at it would be, LeBron now knows that the idea of, maybe at the end of my career, I'll play 1 season for Pop so I can experience. That's no longer an option. Like, if he ever wants to play for Gregg Popovich, it's this offseason. It's this decision. Now, that would turn him into, as Kevin O'Connor, who's one of my favorite NBA writers, put it, almost mercenary LeBron, which is year by year, picks a new team. Like, I'll go play with San Antonio for a year or 2, make another decision after that. But all the information we've heard is that LeBron does want this to be his last decision. Whether or not knowing that this is his last opportunity to play for Gregg Popovich, how much that changes it, I don't know. But that would be, you mentioned Brad Stevens in Boston, be a great coach for LeBron. Pop would be, obviously, no disrespect to Eric Spoelstra, the best coach he's ever played for by a wide margin.
No question.
Knowing what you know about Pop, you think he's done? 2020 would be it for him?
I know Pop loves the game, and I know not having his wife is taking a toll on him because she meant so much to him.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if he moves on and just, be around the team, running the team, and not being on the sideline.